Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jess Diatri. I'm a research and instruction librarian at Babson College outside of Boston. I'm going to be the moderator for this session. Before we get fully started, we've got a few reminders just about the conference itself. I'm about to put some information in chat about our code of conduct that we ask everyone to follow during the conference. You see that link there if you'd like to read it. If you have any issues relating to conduct, please send us an email at genaiinlibraries@gmail.com for us to address that. Everyone should be muted, so please keep your microphone on mute while our presenter is speaking. During the Q&A, please wait to be invited to unmute before asking your question or making your comment. You can also put questions and comments in the chat and the Q&A throughout the presentation and the demo, and Bree and I will be monitoring those. The session will be recorded, and if you want to enable captions, then go to the Show Captions button at the bottom of your screen, and you can turn that on there. All right, without any further ado, our presenter for this session is Breanne Kirsch, and she is our fearless leader for the Gale Conference, has led us in all of the planning, and will soon be the library director at Illinois College. She's going to be talking to us today about AI research tools, so please join me in welcoming her.
Thanks so much, Jess. I appreciate you moderating the session for us. So as Jess said, I'll be talking about empowering research, unveiling the potential of Elicit, Consensus, and ResearchRabbit. So this session will be a quick introduction to these three tools, then some short demos before turning it into a workshop-based session for you to actually get your hands dirty and try playing with some of these tools yourself. And then we can kind of talk through any issues or questions you may have about the tools as we get going. So without further ado, I will move on to the next slide. So I do have a QR code here that links to a Google version of the slides. Also, I am posting the link in the chat along with a tiny URL of the link as well for you in case you want a copy of the slides. It's a fairly short slideshow presentation, but in case you want access to it, it is available to you. So for today's session, for the agenda, first, again, I'll go over an overview of generative AI research tools, specifically Elicit, Consensus, and ResearchRabbit. Then I'll do some brief demonstrations of each of these tools before opening it up for interactive exercises and guided exploration. So hopefully that sounds interesting to all of you. So first, let's talk a little bit about Elicit. According to Elicit, it is a research assistant using language models like GPT-3 to automate parts of researchers' workflows. Currently, the main workflow in Elicit is literature review. If you ask a question, Elicit will show relevant papers and summaries of key information about those papers in an easy-to-use table. So essentially, it's kind of like a tool for helping you create literature reviews. So we'll see what you think of the tool when I show it to you in a little bit. So a little bit more information about Elicit and the sources of the information, because I know as librarians, we're all very interested in knowing where the information is coming from. So they do get information and papers from Semantic Scholar on a weekly basis. And so that uses a lot of open access papers, but they do include non-open access papers as well. And you can add columns in Elicit and it will answer those questions based on the full text of the paper if it's available for open access, or it will answer based just on the abstract. So it doesn't include full peer-reviewed articles that are not open access, but it will use abstracts to pull information from as well. And at this point, it only includes academic papers and not books. And it does include some preprints, for example, from archives or bioarchives. And they do actually share some limitations on their website, which I found to be helpful, because if a tool is sharing some of the challenges with it, I think that's a little bit more authentic than some of the other AI tools that kind of diminish or hide those challenges or limitations. So it does give some limitations here. These are screenshots from the website itself. And I won't go into these right now. We don't have all day for this, but if you're interested, they do have those on the website. So as with most of these tools, there is a free version available, but you can also upgrade to a plus version. And the plus version says it's $10 a month or $120 per year if billed annually. If you do it per month, it's $12 or $144 per year. And the plan includes 12,000 credits per month, which is more credits than the free version gives you. And then each advanced tool you use will cost those credits. And there are some of the other additional things that you get if you purchase the plus version of the tool, such as summarizing up to 8 papers at a time and exporting results to CSV, etc. So Consensus, that's our next tool, and it's a little bit similar to Elicit. According to the Consensus website, it says it's an AI search engine for research. Find and understand the best science faster. And again, like Elicit, its sources are from Semantic Scholar, about 200 million academic papers. And this tool can be used to streamline, again, the literature review process. So very similar tools, and you'll see the 2 different interfaces, but also the functionality is somewhat similar to these 2 tools. The nice thing about Consensus is they actually do say that they partner with libraries, higher learning institutes, and universities. And you can filter by sample size, study design, methodology, open access, and more. And I'll show you some of these filters when I do the brief demonstrations as well. And yes, I see your question, Jolene. What does partner mean? I'm expecting it means that they want these institutions to purchase a Plus account or an account with them to have their students utilize it. But check out their website and you can dig a little bit and see what you think it means. All right, so again, there are different pricing opportunities. So this, I think, is what they mean by partner. They have teams and enterprise options. So if you want the entire institution, the entire university to have access to this tool, you can do an enterprise purchase or subscription to Consensus. So I believe that's what they mean by partnering. But again, they have a free version available. And I should mention, I have only tried out the free versions for these tools. I do not pay money for these. I just dig into the free accounts because I don't have money to spend on this and my library doesn't either. So I just play with the free version and see what its capabilities are. So they do have a premium version if you want unlimited access and the advanced features for $8.99 a month. They also have a team option and the enterprise option, which of course is based on the size of the institution and those sorts of things, I would think. And they do have a student discount option here as well for 40% off with a verified EDU or AC email address. So I did want to mention that as well. And I see, Martha, your question there, does the integration with Research Library, does that mean they will go into paid databases? I believe not. I think that they are just, let's see, I'm trying to see where you see that. I'd have to look and see where you see that, Martha. But yeah, my understanding is no, they don't go into paid databases.
Bree, it's the second bullet in the enterprise.
I see there. Okay. My understanding is, well, you know, I'm not 100% sure on that one. That's something that we would have to dig into and see. I would be very leery of being an academic library and giving them access to our databases. Might be like Google Scholar's integration. It could be. So yeah, that's a good question and something I will need to look into a little more to find out what it means. But yes, like Todd said, I would expect the licensing agreements with our database providers probably forbid it. So I would be very leery of giving them access to our databases. But it might be like Google and trying to link up with your catalog or something like that too. But yeah, good question. All right, so what is ResearchRabbit? Again, this is the final tool that I'm going to talk about. today. So ResearchRabbit is, again, another generative AI research-based tool. And they actually are a little different, though. It says they're on a mission to advance knowledge by building powerful, thoughtfully designed technologies for researchers around the world. And they say that it's like Spotify for papers. You can add papers to collections, and ResearchRabbit will improve recommendations. You can get personalized digests to keep up with the latest relevant papers for your collections. And you can use it for interactive visualizations with your research. And they do say privacy assured. User data never leaves our own servers and is never sold to third parties. We understand the sensitive nature of research projects and also take special care to protect researchers in jurisdictions with less academic freedom. They also say that ResearchRabbit's core discovery functionalities will remain free forever, which I really appreciate. And they say they do this because researchers commit years of time, energy, and more to advance human knowledge, and their job is to help you discover work that is relevant, not to sell your work back to you. Being a mission-first team makes these kinds of decisions easy. So I appreciate that personally, and I think we should promote ResearchRabbit as a tool because of this. So let's see if there's another question. Okay. Okay, so I did want to point out you can export citations from within ResearchRabbit. And I have a screenshot here describing how to do so. You can just use the export feature to download a list of papers into bibtex, .bib, or RSI formats. And then you can take that and drag and drop it to your citation manager. So that's some information about how you can export your citations from within ResearchRabbit to Mendeley, Zotero, and EndNote. Okay, I see a question came in. Do you know how Semantic Scholar collects information and distinguishes between scholarly and non-scholarly sources? I do not, Tatiana, because I am not actually that familiar with Semantic Scholar. My understanding is it uses a lot of open source journals. So if somebody else is more knowledgeable about Semantic Scholar and wants to chime in the chat, I would appreciate that. Again, ResearchRabbit does accept donations. So they don't say it's a subscription model, but they say it's a donation. So if you do want to donate, you can be a superhero supporter for $3 a month, a Legend of the Forest, which includes merchandise, for $15 a month, or give a custom one-time or reoccurring contribution. So again, instead of a subscription model, they actually have a donation recommendation. Okay, so now let's do some demonstrations. I'm going to show you these three tools: Elicit, Consensus, and ResearchRabbit. And I will put the URLs in the chat. So if you want to follow along, you can, but I will also leave some time for you to start playing with the tools as well. So you can follow along first if you would like, and then we will have some time for you to try out some things in the tools as well. So let me stop sharing. And then I will start sharing. My screen again with you. If I can figure out the right one. Okay, do you see Elicit here? Okay, thank you for the thumbs up, Jess. I appreciate that. All right, so you can see my Elicit screen right now. And right now I have a question in here already. I said, how is universal design for learning used in higher education? And I should mention, I did my dissertation on UDL in higher ed, so that's kind of the focus of my research. So that's why I'm using this as the example demonstration search for each of these tools. And I'm kind of psyched. My paper came up as one of the results, so I'm kind of tickled about that. So I did have to share that as well. My paper is right here, one of the ones I've done on UDL. So they give you a summary here of the top 4 papers. And this is, again, the free version of Elicit. So it gives you a summary, and it has in-text citations, which I really appreciate, for the top 4 papers that they are summarizing for us. So they give us the citation information on the left column, They give us an abstract summary in the middle column. And the interesting thing about Elicit is you can actually add columns here for different things. So the recommended ones to add are about a summary, main findings, methodology, intervention, outcome measured, and limitations. You can also click show more, and it gives you a number of other options here as well. So depending on the type of research, you may want to choose some of these other limiters also. At this point, I'm going to click main findings to add that as a column. And then let's try methodology as well. I'll click that also. And if I hover over this little coin symbol, it does cost 10 to 100 credits on average to add in extra columns. So each of these additional things costs you credits, and you do get a refreshed number of credits per month in the free version as well as the plus version. And you can see here there is the export option, but you do have to upgrade to plus to export it. All right, so it does give us the summary again, the main findings, and the methodology. And then if I click on one of these, I'll choose one that's not mine because I don't want to be egotistical or anything. So again, I have my citation information here, the abstract summary, main findings, methodology. In this case, it says it's a conceptual paper, so it's not applicable. This is the abstract at the top, and then if the full text is available, they actually include the full text in Elicit itself. So in this case, my understanding is this would be an open access article. So if I go back to my notebook, we can scroll down. And they do have additional papers. It's not just the top 4. They do have more papers underneath that as well. For example, let's look at this one. Again, it gives me the summary, main findings, methodology. And then in this case, it just has the abstract available. So in this case, it's not an open source journal article. I see your question there. Is there a way to filter full text versus abstract? There may be, but I'm not 100% sure how you would do that. But that's a good question. Let's see if I can go back to my UDL thing here. Okay, so let's see. Let's go to the filters so then we can take a look at some of these. So you can limit it to if it has the PDF available. So in that case, you could check that it has the PDF. So then in that case, it would limit it to full text is my understanding. But again, it would just be those that have the PDF itself. I'm not sure if that includes HTML or not. That's something you would have to play with some. And again, Christine, you would have to evaluate that again for how do you know if these articles are from legit peer-reviewed journals? Yeah, that's something that information literacy is still important. They still have to be able to evaluate the sources and see if it's a legitimate peer-reviewed journal or if it's a pay to publish type of journal that's not one that is reliable or accurate. So that's a good question. And in terms of the main findings, if they're accurate or if they might be hallucinated in any way, my understanding is they take it directly from the abstract or from the full text of the article itself, and then they try to summarize it. So it's going to be just like ChatGPT in terms of the accuracy. So since they are taking it directly from the paper itself, hopefully it's a little bit more accurate and there are less hallucinations. But again, you always have to take it with a grain of salt because it is generative AI and you do have to check that. So again, in my opinion, information literacy is more important than ever. So I don't think librarians or information literacy is going away anytime soon. In fact, I think it'll be even more important moving forward. Okay. And I'm not sure, Rob, if you have a question in there or not. So if you have a question, come back I'll try to come back to it. Does Elicit search databases or is it searching open access only? Again, it's only searching Semantic Scholar. So usually open access, but if it has an abstract for an article, it will also search that as well. So if it's not available in open source, it may have access to the abstract, but that would be all then. Okay, so you can also limit it by study type, which is nice. So if you want to look specifically at reviews or meta-analyses or systematic reviews or random controlled trials or longitudinal studies, you could do that. You can also limit it further by specific keywords within the abstract, or you can say you don't want the abstract to have these keywords. So it's a little bit Boolean in there. All right, so I want to keep moving, so there's time for you to keep and explore the tools yourself. So I'm going to jump ahead to consensus. So again, I asked the same question: how is universal design for learning implemented in higher education? And then it gives me different studies here. So the layouts, the interface is a little different than Elicit, but it has very similar content. So you can see, let's see here. For example, this one gives me a sentence summary, and it tells me it's a literature review. It gives me the citation information and how many other articles have cited it. And then you can also click on Study Snapshot, but it uses AI to extract key information about the study's methods. With the free plan, I have only 14 AI credits left, but that does renew shortly on June 22nd. So, or you could upgrade to premium. So you have a limited number of credits that you can use for doing the different advanced features within the tool. So keep that in mind. So I'm not going to actually do the study snapshot at this point since there's only 14 credits. I do want to look at up here too with Synthesize and Copilot. So Synthesize, you can have it read several papers and then synthesize the findings. And then with Copilot, you can enable this to get answers, generate content, and more with your AI research assistant. So I actually am going to click Copilot to see what happens. And it's in beta, so keep that in mind too. And I see your question, are those articles feasible to use in terms of copyright? We don't recommend Semantic because of that. That's a good question. I do not know enough about Semantic Scholar to know if they are using copyrighted material or not, or if they're just utilizing open access. That's something I would have to dig into a little more. So again, if anyone is more knowledgeable about Semantic Scholar than I am, you are welcome to chime in on the conversation. Okay, so in this case, Copilot analyzed 10 papers. And, you know, I'm not sure if it's related to Microsoft's Copilot or not. I don't believe it is. But again, I'm not sure how they've created the tool or if it's affiliated with Microsoft at all. But that's a good question. I think it's just multiple tools using the term Copilot. All right, so it gives me key insights here that they've analyzed from these papers and then a conclusion. And it does have in-text citations here with the numbers linking to the specific articles. And I will say for these articles, since I did my UDL, my dissertation on UDL, I can tell that these are reliable articles, the ones that I'm seeing so far, because I cited several of them myself. There's one or two that I hadn't heard of before, but for the most part, it looks like these are pretty reliable sources. And then you can load more. And we can scroll down and see other articles as well. And they will note if it's an observational study or if it's a highly cited article as well, which is interesting. I didn't tell it which 10 papers to synthesize, Christine. It does it automatically. And I do see a question from the Q&A. Have you or anybody also evaluated the quality of these tools or for different disciplines? They seem to have a medical STEM bias in their corpus. Yes, I'd agree, Jess, that they did start that way. They started looking at medical and STEM, but UDL is definitely more of an education focus. And I would say that generally it does actually have quite a bit in here and it's expanding what it has. So I would say quality in terms, again, it depends on how you define quality and what you're considering in terms of the context. But in this case, for the articles that it pulled up on UDL, it's pretty good quality, I would say, just personally for this specific example. Yeah, thank you, Glenn. So it says Semantic Scholar is primarily focused on science content, but is adding social sciences. Yes. All right, so I'm going to keep going here. And I want to just click on one so you can see what it looks like for the other interface. So again, this gives me the article information. It tells me it has 5 influential citations and then 96 citations. And apparently Semantic Scholar uses machine learning to identify citations that have a significant impact on the field. So that's how they determine that. This is an observational study. And you can generate a snapshot, but again, it uses up an AI credit then. So there are a lot of features within the tool, but you are limited in what you can do with it in terms of the credits available to you. So again, there's stuff you can do. It's kind of an interesting tool, but with the free version, you're a little bit limited in terms of the number of searches that you would be able to do per month with the number of options like generating snapshots or doing the co-pilot, etc. Then they've got the abstract here and a key takeaway that they came up with. And then it does link out to the full text or the Semantic Scholar information when they are available. And then below that, they have the references listed here and the citations as well. All right, so that's consensus, and I'm going to keep moving on. Let me just check the chat, how we're doing here. Okay, yeah, thanks, Juan, for looking that up about Copilot probably not being connected to Microsoft or OpenAI at this point. So yeah, it could be hit or miss in terms of the coverage on the topics. And then there's one more question I see. Why are we promoting these commercialized products? It just disappeared on me. Here we go. Are we expecting researchers to pay the cost? That's a good question. And I would say it depends on your institution and their policies and what the faculty are doing in their courses. At my institution, one of the faculty wanted me to share Elicit with her students as a way to help them start to formulate their literature reviews for her class assignments. So again, it depends on the context, but I would say, you know, there are still free versions available for the tools. And if a student is just doing one research assignment for the semester, the free version is probably sufficient for them. If it's a student working on their PhD or dissertation or a master's thesis, I would probably steer them more towards ResearchRabbit. And I'll show you that in just a minute. Let's see. Does consensus free version have limitations, number of articles to show or number of searches? No, it doesn't have limitations other than the credits needed. So in this case, if I wanted to generate the snapshot, I could, but I only have 12 AI credits left, which renews monthly. So again, you have to kind of pick and choose what you want the tool to share with you to utilize your free AI credits effectively, I guess I would say. All right, so moving on to ResearchRabbit, because I know we are limited on time today. This is ResearchRabbit. I have a UDL collection, and I did start a generative AI collection, but I didn't get very far on it. So in this case, I'm going to stick with my UDL topic again. In this case, you can see it's a little gray and kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit. There we go. For my UDL collection or folder, whatever you want to call it, I have 249 articles in here already. And I wish I knew about this tool before I started my dissertation journey because it would have helped tremendously. So in this case, you can see all these articles that I have already added to my collection. And for example, I'll click one of them to show you. This gives me this abstract for the paper and a bit of the citation information. In this case, I did not add the PDF for the article. I could add it if I wanted to. That's a good question, Christine, and I'll show you how you get the articles in there in a minute after I show you some of the other functionality. So once you click on a paper, you can click on other things related to that paper. So you could add it to another collection. You could look for similar work. You could look at all references or all citations. You could also look at these authors specifically or suggested authors somewhat related to the paper. And then we can click on a different one if we want. And again, it gives me the abstract information, some citation information, and again, it shows me other related information. So if I click similar works, it will pop up with another list of similar works. And the thing I like about this tool is the visual. You can look at these graphs with connections between your collection and other papers. So in this case, if I hover over one of these and click on one, it will pop up that paper and you can go down the rabbit hole. Hence, I think that's why they call it ResearchRabbit, is because you can click left and right here. You can see what articles are connected to each other, what articles cite each other, those sorts of things. So it's kind of fun to play with, in my opinion. And the nice thing is you can click on timeline or network. I like the network view, but you can also click timeline to see when these different articles were published and how they're related to each other. So it's kind of a neat visual and way of looking at research from a different angle and in a different format. So I did want to show that. And then here's where you can export papers to BibTeX, RIS, or CSV. And then they also on the right-hand side have different options here. They have settings, that's just email and password, etc. They have, let's see what else, a help feature. So you can go to FAQ, community videos, you can start a tour. They also have a survey, so you can kind of help them improve the tool. You can follow them on Twitter or again, donate. Let's see. Okay, you guys are chatting away in the chat here. Let me just browse real quick and see if there are questions in here. Okay, I'm going to go back now to adding articles. So there's a big green button here. When you click on one of your collections, you just click add papers. There's the option to add by, or you can look for a paper by title, DOI, PMID, or keywords. So in this case, I could just look up UDL and see what it brings up. And you can limit it to biomedical and life sciences or all subject areas. So in this case, here's a King Sears article. And I've actually read that one. There's a few other ones here that I recognize. And then if you find one you like, then you can add it to your collection. And it's as easy as that. So if you have a DOI, for example, for an article, you can also look that up. And sometimes they won't have it because it's not in their system already for what they've searched. For example, I went in and added a few of my papers. Let's see. Yeah, for example, this one from Reference Services Review, I added that in myself because it wasn't in that initial keyword search. And then I used my DOI to add it in. And so again, it gives me citation info. It gives me the abstract here, but it doesn't list similar work or references or citations. So some of that may not be available depending on the source you're using, the journal you're using, and its availability in the system or not. But you can also upload, I think you can upload, yeah, you can upload files as well from a citation manager, etc. And you can also connect to Zotero also, which I've not tried as of yet. Okay, so let me see. There's a lot of things in here. Let me just browse and see if I see other questions. Open source AI research tools. Okay. Oh yeah, I have seen Hugging Face also. So yeah, I think that answered your question, Christine, about how I got the articles in there. Okay, I'm seeing mostly comments. Here's one. Does consensus free version has limitations? Oh, I think I tried to answer that also. Do you know if it can? Yes, Martha, it can be used by multiple people in a group or with faculty or a research assistant. Yes, as Jennifer said there, you can share folders or groups. I don't remember how from this page. Here it is. You can, here, let me zoom out again. It's a little too zoomed in there. Okay, so here you can make it a public collection if you want it to be publicly available to everyone. You can also do a shareable link. You can also add collaborators here, and you can also have it email updates to whoever's a collaborator as well. So yes, good question. I should have mentioned that. And then in terms of the different colors, blue or green, Jennifer, thank you again for trying to answer that. Green indicates the item is one of your collections and blue is not in your collection. Okay. And I see Bridget, thank you very much for sharing that article that answers the question about who's being cited and what kinds of work is being cited and the diversity of voices. I appreciate you sharing information with each other like good librarians. Okay. I see the question, has anyone had their IT block any AI tools that are being a security risk? That's a good question. I'd be curious to know that too. Our school has not blocked any AI tools as of yet. So it'll be interesting to see if any are down the road. And I see Kelly said yes. So if you want to share more in the chat, Kelly, about that, I'd love to hear more about that and which tools were blocked. So yes, Kelly, ResearchRabbit is pulling articles probably from Semantic Scholar, maybe some of the other open source resources out there. But also you can add articles or papers. You can also look it up by DOI URLs. So it's also from the internet itself, I believe, since it's using the DOI to add an article. Let's see. Okay, you guys are chatting a lot again here. Let's see. Yeah, I'll let somebody else talk about the benefits of Zotero since that's outside of the realm of the presentation for today, and we're getting a little lower on time. Okay, I'm going to stop answering questions at this point. I appreciate others answering questions in the chat too for me because we're running a little low on time. So I want to stop sharing my screen again and switch back to these slides real quick. Okay, so now we're on the interactive exercise portion of the presentation. We only have a little less than 10 minutes. I'm sorry, I meant to leave a little more time than that, but hopefully you've had a chance to start playing with the tools if you chose to as well. So I'd love for you to take a little time, pick one of the tools to try them out, Elicit, Consensus, or ResearchRabbit. And I recommend you create a free account. Don't do a paid account at this point. Just try it out for free. And then ask a research question or add a paper. And I did include an example research question here if you can't think of one right now, or example keywords to search for adding a paper. For example, universal design for learning. Try to explore the tool and try out its different functionalities or capabilities, and then consider ways it might be used in your own work or when helping students. So the rest of the time is going to be for you to explore these tools yourself if you haven't already started, and try them out, see what you think about them, see what other questions you may have. And I do want to put up my email there. It's not that yet. It starts July 1st. I will be moving over the next several weeks to my new institution, Illinois College. And my email starting July 1st will be bree.kirsch@ic.edu. So feel free to reach out after the conference is over if you have questions or just want to tell me your experiences using these tools. I'd love to hear from you. So meanwhile, while you're starting to play with some of these tools, I'm going to see what other questions you may have and try to answer those if you have any more questions at this point. Okay, let's see. Jessica, can you tell me, did I miss any questions that you noticed at this point?
I don't think so. I think we read them all. There's a lot going on in chat, but I think either you or someone else in chat was able to answer everything.
Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you for your assistance helping answer questions, everyone. And Jessica for moderating today's session. We have about 6 minutes left, so I will definitely stick around. So feel free to ask questions if you run into any more questions or try out the tools yourself. Jess, I don't know if we want to stop the recording at this point.